Hi, I'm Greg Benevent, and welcome back to another Website Depot podcast. We're once again very happy to bring to you Belal Hamideh, one of our great clients who has some really interesting, really useful information for many of you out there. How you doing today, Belal?
Good, thank you, Greg. How you doing today?
I'm hanging in, man. I'm hanging in. All right. So, you're an attorney and you're out there still working for your clients. And I was real curious, like, how did the lockdown, and the shutdown and all this in California, how did that affect the court system and the world of law?
Right. So, the COVID-19 had a major effect on the entire world and didn't leave any victims behind. So pretty much the entire world went on lockdown, including the courts and the justice system. The courts, I believe it was March 23rd, and the Superior Court of LA County when they officially issued a lockdown order and officially closed off the courts to the public. Um, Obviously, it couldn't remain that way where we wouldn't, have availability to the court system. So, in all of their wisdom, they did make some adjustments and changes so that we can resume our cases. In regards to court hearings today, they're basically done by phone. For all civil hearings, everybody appears by phone. Um, it's a system that the court implemented called Remote Connect, where you just call in and wait for your case to be heard, and the judge can hear you by speakerphone through the court system, and you can hear the judge, and it's quite efficient actually. They just do a roll call of cases, and as your case gets called, you make your oral arguments so the judge can still move the case forward. In regards to jury trials, however, that's presented a particular uh, problem and obstacle because of the social distancing requirement. Whenever a case gets set for trial, the first part of the trial is jury selection. So they bring out like 100 jurors, they put them together in the same courtroom, and then the attorneys start interviewing the jurors regarding whether they have a bias towards your case and whether they would be a good fit for your case to serve as a juror. So obviously, if you want to fit 100 people inside of a courtroom, everybody is going to be sitting very close to each other. So jury selection, which is the first part of trial, has been postponed, which has postponed a lot of cases. Because if a case does not settle, then ultimately it has to go to a trial in which your community, your peers, judge the case and award, whatever amount they want to award. So all jury trials for civil have been postponed until 2021. So there haven't really been any jury trials, after March in this area. There have, to my knowledge, in other states, there have been other attempts at jury trials by video, but it didn't really work out because, from what I understand, there was technical issues, and a lot of the jurors were found or assumed to not be paying full attention because you couldn't really monitor that, being that they were not in the presence of the judge or the attorney. So I don't think that really worked out, the jury trial by Zoom. Um, any trials that are bench trials, that's different than a jury trial because that's in front of a judge instead of in front of a jury. Those that were postponed until November 16 of this year. Now, obviously, it's easier to abide by the social distancing rules when you're only in the presence of one decision maker, the judge, instead of the presence of 12 decision makers, the jury, and the other, 80 to 90 people that are potential jury members that you are interviewing and they're waiting to be called, to be interviewed. So jury trials have really taken a toll. Um, Another important part of a case is the deposition that's taken of either side, which is testimony. It's the same effect as if you're in a courtroom on a witness stand and you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. It's the most important, probably, phase of discovery, which is when each side in a case exchanges information and becomes familiar with each other's position in a case. Now, the rule was in a deposition that the court reporter, the person writing everything down that's being said in a deposition, had to be in the presence of the deponent. The
Mm.
deponent is the person who is answering the question. However, there have been some emergency court orders which actually allow us to do depositions remotely by Zoom, most commonly. And sometimes they use other uh, products aside from Zoom, but usually it's been Zoom. And the court reporter, the deponent, the attorneys, and sometimes if there's an interpreter required, are all actually in separate places. And we are doing a Zoom meeting deposition. And that's been the norm since the court order, emergency order allowed for us to do remote deposition a few months ago. And I actually see this becoming maybe a permanency, due to just the efficiency that Zoom and technology provides to these depositions, to these court hearings, because it really reduces the amount of travel time and preparation time, and you can kind of just get right to the chase.
Mm.
So I think that the use of technology in our practice has made our cases quicker and more efficient. So it's definitely been a bonus. Now, in criminal cases, there's a specific rule that the defendant has to consent to do a remote appearance. So if the
Mm.
defendant, the person being charged with the crime, does not consent to a remote appearance, those must be done in person, actually. So there are
Mm.
certain types of cases, like criminal cases, where the hearing, the defendant must be in person, unless the defendant consents to do it remotely. Um, Also, there's small claims hearings, which are matters that are less than $10,000 if you're suing an individual defendant, and $5,000 if you're suing a corporate defendant.
Mm.
So those are just one hearing, and usually they put like 50 to 100 people in the same room, and then the judge just calls each case, and they usually last 5 to 10 minutes. Obviously,
Huh.
because of social distancing, that's not available anymore, the in person. So what the courts, in all of their wisdom, have provided are for telephonic appearances, and then all the exhibits that you use, to support your case are actually filed electronically prior to the small claims hearing taking place. So the judge and the other party already has access to your exhibits, to what you're going to use to support your case prior to the hearing, and they just need you on the phone to present your oral arguments to support the documents you're presenting, and then the judge makes their decision. The last thing that so we talked about criminal appearances, how you can appear in person, but you still must wear a mask when you enter the courtroom. You must
Mm.
maintain 6 foot social distancing. We
Good.
talked about civil jury trials that have been postponed until January 2021, may also be postponed again. Um, we talked about non-jury trials in front of a judge. Those are postponed until the middle of November. And now, when you want to file a case, a lot of times you just walk up to the court. There's a filing window, and you take your complaint or summons or your initial filing documents, and you file them at the window. They stamp your documents, and you take your copy and leave. But now the courts are urging people to file things electronically.
Mm.
So there's different websites where you can actually upload your summons and complaint or other court filings, and then they get submitted to the court and get processed that way. And they're deemed filed the day that you submit them, even if they are stamped on a different day. Because a lot of times there's deadlines you have to abide by. um, like statute of limitations. So you don't want to file something on the last day, but then it doesn't get stamped a week later. It wouldn't be fair to bar a case just because the court couldn't get to it immediately. Um, so
Right.
there's been a huge effect on the way that we practice law. You really had to be able to use and implement technology into your practice to keep up and to be
Hmm.
able to still effectively represent your clients, which thankfully we have been able to do and hope to continue to do. So that, in a nutshell, has been the effect of COVID on the court system and how we as attorneys are coping with it so that we can effectively move forward.
Yeah, any follow-up questions I was going to ask you, you more or less really covered there. I mean, it's yeah. You laid out how the civil system can work, how the criminal system can work. That's all going to be very helpful. So yeah, if there's nothing else, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us today, Bilal. It's always good to see you. And yeah, we're going to close out with a little video of yours here, I believe. So, on behalf of Website Depot, my name's Greg Benevent. Thank you. Take it easy, and we'll see you next time.
I see it.
What to do after being involved on the university?